What's going on YouTube? It's Matty B. Welcome back to the channel, and as always, thank y'all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Coming up this weekend, we got round 4 of Pro Motocross at High Point Raceway up in Pennsylvania, the first of the East Coast swing of this outdoor series. So today we're going to do a track preview and some predictions for that, as well as talk about some topics in moto. First of all, we'll get into Johnny Hopper's press conference question that has got everybody up in arms and arguing on the internet. And I'll even give you guys a little bit of insight as to what AP thought about the question and whether or not he's gotten in trouble for talking about the Tomac to KTM situation. Next, I want to touch on Jorge Prado and the struggles he's having here in the United States and with Kawasaki, and we'll tie that into comparing Ryan Villopoto's MXGP run back in 2015, and the struggles that Kawasaki have been having also ties into some silly season chatter, because that is where one of the top prospects, Chase Sexton, has been heavily rumored to be heading next year. And then we even received some confirmation on where Eli Tomac's whereabouts may be in 2026. Then we will dive into the resurgence that the Women's Motocross Series has been having in the last couple of years, and we'll talk about a couple of seriously talented up-and-coming prospects in the female division, and then I want to share an idea that I have for the WMX Series and for the Combines. And I just realized I'm going into a lot of topics today, no choice, but then we'll check on what the Super Motocross point standings are looking like in both classes, and then finally we'll do a track preview for High Point with some videos I have from past years. We'll check out the weather, and then I have no choice but to give you an MX Simulator preview because my GoPro fell off at Thunder Valley the year I raced all the Nationals, and I have no POV footage from High Point. And we are going to get into all of that in today's video. And before I begin, I just got to be that guy and ask, if you enjoy my stuff, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. You know I love going back and forth with you guys and hearing what you guys think about my takes. But either way, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's get started. First of all, I want to dive into Johnny Hopper's question at the press conference to Aaron Plessinger following the Thunder Valley National.
Theoretically, Tomac may be going to KTM. Is it going to be, do you guys get along? Are you happy to potentially have him as a teammate? Hypothetically speaking.
What do you guys think about that one? If I'm Eli Tomac, I probably don't love it, and if I'm KTM, I probably don't love it either, but I am neither of those people or companies. I am a fan of the sport, and I actually thought the way Johnny did this was about as good as you could do it if you're going to bring up a sensitive topic like this, because obviously he can't ask Eli. He's currently under contract with Yamaha, so he's unable to talk about it. But AP, on the other hand, this isn't even regarding anything that has to do with his contract, so he's kind of free to speak on a hypothetical. And honestly, unless you've been living under a rock or you just don't follow the sport that closely, then you probably have already known for a while that this Eli to KTM thing has been a possibility. And even Adam Cianciarulo came out and said that he heard that the contract had already been signed. So I really just don't see the big deal at all. I really wish our sport was a lot more open with things like silly season and contracts and things like that. I mean, motocross riders aren't making as much money as guys in other motorsports, and even they are more open than we are. And I heard some speculation about people saying that Johnny shouldn't have asked this because it would get AP in trouble for talking about it. But AP said as of today he has not heard one word about the situation. And even regarding the original question about ET to KTM, Aaron said you guys would not believe how much stuff he really doesn't know. The dude's just focused on making his own living and his own racing. And also, straight from the horse's mouth, AP did not mind the question, like, at all. I actually think based on his answer, he thought it was a cool question and probably liked it. But AP, just like myself, he doesn't really know why everybody's up in arms about it either. He said, and I quote, "It's just a question." And again, Johnny is far from the first person to break this news, so I just don't see why everybody's up in arms about it. It would be different if he had asked Eli, but he didn't. One thing I heard Johnny say that I really respect him for is that he says he does not care to be friends with the riders. He's just there to get information for the fans, which is super commendable. The only point I want to make is that those things can kind of go hand in hand. Being friends with the riders can for sure help you get more information and better interviews out of them. Just like WMX with Phil Nicoletti or Lewis Phillips with Chase Sexton, the riders are just going to feel a lot more comfortable talking to somebody that's a friend. But no hate comms here. Johnny's doing it for the people, and I can respect that he had the balls to just go ahead and ask the question, even if he knew some people wouldn't like it. They'll get over it. And Johnny said there were only 4 media members at the press conference in the first place, so at least he livened it up a little bit. Let's make the damn things great again. No choice. Yep, I had to bust out the panic button. Jorge Prado and Kawasaki are in trouble. This is not good. I talked a little bit last week about how Jorge explained his issues that he's having with the motorcycle, saying that he needs more power. And I even saw that he changed his patented best of all time starting technique. He went from starting with only 1 foot down to now both feet down, which it's a little bit different over here with ruts out of the gate compared to MXGP, but still not a great sign when you're changing something that's gotten you a trillion hole shots. But more than anything, my main concern is that we just have not really seen anything yet out of him as far as a flash of speed or anything that shows us that he's the real Jorge Prado. No fast qualifying sessions, no hole shots, hasn't really ran up at the front just yet. And I knew Supercross would be tough for him, jumping right into the deep end in the 450 class, but this is absolutely not what I expected out of him outdoors. I mean, the dude's been getting beat by upwards of 1 minute, which I don't believe has ever happened in MXGP. So now my question is it the bike? Is it Jorge? Is it the attracts and the adjustment to living in the USA? And crazily enough, I did not expect to see Jorge being so open about this hate, but he even commented on my TikTok, throwing some shade at Kawasaki. Just kidding, everybody. It's obviously not Jorge. And it's interesting to compare this to the run that Ryan Villopoto had in the MXGP series at the end of his career. At the first round of the championship in Qatar, he could only manage a 9.8 for 7th overall, but then at round 2 in Thailand, he won the qualifying race and went 1-3 to win the GP in his second ever start. He then went 4-4 at round 3 in Argentina to just miss out on a chance to the podium, and then came disaster at round 4, 4th in the first moto, and then he looped his Larry in Moto 2, and that was the end of the Ryan Villopoto MXGP experiment. Now, the reason I wanted to compare Villopoto and Prado is because Villopoto is really the only one in the last several decades that's left America on top and went to take on the MXGP series. And there were heavy rumors, actually not even rumors because Villopoto has kind of confirmed this himself, but he says he didn't even really put in the full prep that he would have put into an American season, and even still, he showed plenty of flashes, won a Grand Prix, and even though he says he wasn't ready, it at least looked like he belonged out there with that lead group, and so far, we have yet to even get the chance to see Prado test himself up at the front. So plenty of people have made successful transitions from Europe to America, and at the end of the day, if I have to pick, I think it's mostly on Jorge and the bike, more so than the transition from MXGP to AMA. Now, in motocross racing, we all know that it's mostly about the rider, not the bike, but at a level this high, the bike really matters. There have been some reports throughout the media that it's not just Jorge that is less than thrilled with this new generation Kawasaki. Apparently, there have been comments from Cianciarulo, Jason Anderson, and several others having similar issues. And right now, they've got Jorge under contract, locked down for 3 years, so this situation isn't going anywhere anytime too soon. And what I am really worried about is next year, they are rumored to be adding Chase Sexton into the mix, and this dude is an animal, super strong, and even a little bit of a bigger dude, so I can only imagine a slow bike is not something that he's going to be down with in his contract. So what do you guys think? Do you think Chase is sitting back watching these races and listening to these interviews just freaking out back at home? If I were him, I know I would be, because even though he apparently is not happy with the bike, AP has been making it look really good, especially at the beginning of this outdoor season. AP and his machine have looked just as good or better than pretty much everybody and anybody on the track. So for Chase's sake and for the sake of good battles up at the front of motocross and supercross, I really hope the grass really is greener when he goes green. I just really don't know how I feel about this team switch. He has looked really good on the KTM, and I just hope this move to Kawasaki doesn't leave Chase head scratching harder than ever before. But you know who's probably thinking about the opposite right now, who's been watching these KTMs and probably licking his chops, is the number 3 of Eli Tomac, heavily rumored and damn near confirmed that that's where he's going next year. And I'm not really sure how to feel about this move either, because I don't believe Eli has ever been on the steel frame, and I know he likes the cable clutch, and KTM hydraulic is in the contract. But when talking about these moves from the outside looking in, at least the KTM looks like it's performing way better than the Kawasaki is right now. And a lot of that may be on the riders, but either way, if you're Eli Tomac, you definitely got to be rubbing your hands together and feeling good about the possibility of getting on a bike that is fighting for wins right now, compared to Chase Sexton, who's about to get on a bike that everybody is saying is too slow. And I don't know about you guys, but I am just so beyond stoked that Eli Tomac is even still around, still racing at age 32. And being that Star Yamaha declined to sign him and re-signed Cooper Webb and Justin Cooper, I think that'll create a huge chip on Eli's shoulder, and if he even kind of gels with the KTM, I think we could see something very special in the next year or two out of Eli Tomac. And then here's my last thing regarding silly season for the day. This is a tweet from a couple weeks ago from Steve Mathis, and he stated a few of the obvious, like Sexton to Kawi and Tomac to KTM. And see, guys, the media guys actually do talk about silly season. It's not that big of a deal. He's saying Roxon is supposed to stay at Suzuki, Barsha and Anderson to Ducati, and then he says Mookie stays at Husky, but I think there's been some info over the last couple of weeks that Husky may not be around in motocross and supercross anymore, so maybe he will move over with RJ Hampshire to the Gas Gas squad. But like I said, this was from a couple of weeks ago, and the musical chairs of team switches has probably already changed several times since then, and I'll try to do my best to keep you guys updated on some developing situations. Next up, we're going to talk about the absolute resurgence that is women's motocross racing here in the United States. The WMX series returned last year, albeit on a little bit of an abbreviated schedule at some amateur events, but now they're back at the Nationals. But the only mild bummer is that they're only on Fridays. However, at Thunder Valley, it rained cats and dogs on Friday, so they weren't able to do their motos, and they actually raced on Saturday after the 250 and 450 classes, and they were also live on Peacock, which was super entertaining. They put on an awesome race. We even had a couple of girls clean each other out for the podium, and I think this series should only continue to evolve and get better in the years to come. Lachlan Turner is one of the latest and greatest in the female department. She rips, and she's been one of the top amateurs coming through on mini bikes and now onto the big bikes. And she may even be helping pave the way for younger girls that are trying to come up in the future, because there are some gnarly young ladies in the amateur scene right now. And I can't talk about everybody, so I'm sorry if I miss you. But first of all, we have Mela Herrick. I believe she's 15 years old, just moved up to big bikes, and she's qualified for Loretta's in the boys' classes several years now. Then a couple years younger, you have 13-year-old Hannah Jameson, and she is gnarly, throws whips, scrubs, male-like aggression, and she won a moto at the Loretta Lynn's Regional against the boys the other weekend. Then there's Rayson Kyler, who's becoming a new phenom right before our very eyes, won the Loretta Lynn's Regional in both the 65 10-11 classes against the boys, and she's representing the USA at the FIM Junior World Championships in France next month. And then the last one I know of is Reagan Heighton. She's made Loretta's in the boys class as well on a 50 last year. And these girls, they're not just limited to bringing the heat in the WMX series. I really think these ladies have a chance to do something against the boys in pro motocross or maybe even supercross one day. And with all these top tier, talented young ladies coming up through the ranks, maybe that'll just be a little bit more ammunition to get them on Peacock even more. And my idea for them ties into the amateur combines, because this is also a really awesome system that I believe has been brought up over the last couple of years. Very beneficial in helping kids get ready for the next level, and it helps them get some good race day guidance on what they should do and why. But the only downside is that they race on Fridays, and I was talking to somebody that was at the Hangtown Amateur Combine, and they said the track was pretty much flat, little amateur chop, and not really at all indicative of what they'll see on a Saturday at a pro national. So my idea for the WMX series and for the combines is to give them practice and one moto on Friday, and then for Saturday, put them at the end of the day after the 250 and 450 motos, and that gives them a more realistic track, the opportunity to be on live television. And even if the track gets too gnarls Barkley, you guys saw what they did at Thunder Valley. They took the dozers out there and worked miracles. I know this would not give them the simulation of running two motos back to back in one day, but even in the combine schedule, the break between motos is way longer than they would normally have at a national, so just give it a try. Let me know what you guys think. Up next, we'll do a quick overview of the current Super Motocross Championship point standings. Right now in the 450 class, Cooper Webb has taken control after the departure of Chase Sexton, but he's got company because Justin Cooper and Aaron Plessinger in the 2 and 3 spots have been making up points by the handful on Cooper Webb every weekend. So if the current trends continue, we could very easily be living in a world where either Justin Cooper or Aaron Plessinger are the number 1 seed heading into Charlotte. And then you've got Sexton still in the 4 spot with Malcolm Stewart rounding out the top 5. Ken Roxon's going to continue to lose some spots in 6th with Sabachi 7, Anderson 8, and then Jet Lawrence 9 and 10. They're making up ground very quick and will probably find themselves in the top 5 by the end of the outdoor season. And we still got a lot of racing to go, so I don't really want to talk about the cutoff point just yet, but everybody's going to be vying for those top 20 spots for direct transfers to the Super Motocross playoffs. Then in the 250 class, not much of a surprise to see Hayden Deegan on top as he's leading the Pro Motocross Championship. and he won the 250 West Supercross Championship. Joe Shimoda's solid start to the outdoor season has him all the way up into the 2 spot with 2 Jews Beaumaire 3rd, Tom Vial 4th, and then another guy who's gaining some ground during the outdoors, Garrett Marchbanks, up into the 5 spot and climbing. Chance Hyman in the 6th spot, Seth Hamaker 7, Moseman 8, Handbrake Volan 9, and Jordan Smith rounds out the top 10. And again, I'm not going to get into all the names because there's a lot of racing left, but there are a lot of top guys on factory teams that are on the outside looking in when talking about direct transfers into the SMX playoffs. But the outdoor season is long, 22 motos, and they've still got 16 left. So give it a few more rounds, and then we'll start breaking down who's going to be in, who's out, and who's on the bubble, and everything in between. Last but not least, the East Coast swing of the Pro Motocross Championship always brings out some new privateers and possibly some factory guys returning from injury, and this weekend will be no different. In the 450 class, Grant Harlan and Justin Barsha, not sure on their statuses, but they're on the entry list. And then new entries for the summer, you got Henry Miller, don't stand anywhere near the side of the track when he's coming, and pour one out for Chase Curtis, Jeremy Hand, Cade Clayson, Trevin Nelson. I think his parents couldn't decide whether they wanted to name him Trevor or Kevin, so they decided on Trevin. Just kidding, brother, you're a legend. HVAC, Justin Rodbell, Cody Groves, who's been grinding on the Alpha Dynamics program, Jackson Gray on the 420, who's riding a Triumph. You'd think he'd ride a green bike. PA local Vinny Luhovi. Dude's probably got a concrete job to work in between practices, and he'll still qualify up in the 20s. The Jersey Shore Lawrence brothers of Ricky and Travis Randinella, Noah Wilbrandt, my boy PJ Jackson on a 2-stroke, Trevor Schmidt, and my boy Jaywalk doing it for the tube. And then on to the 250 class. Max Anstey is on the entry list, but I'm very suspect of that. I think he just had a surgery a couple weeks ago, so I'm thinking he's out. Mark Phineas, I believe, has also been out, and he's back on the entry list. And then the new guys, 111 from New England, Larry Fortskin, Aiden Shive, Russell Bucheri, the Aussie Ray Taylor, Corey Karsten on the Just Kicking It Suzuki, Jordan Jarvis straight after getting landed on at the WMX race, Jumpin' Jack Rogers, Chase Yenser, Jace Kessler, my boy Justin Hushin signed up for his first ever pro motocross race, and then Preston Masiangelo qualified early in the season, and then I think he took a round or two off. He's back as well. Now, finally, into our final part of the video, the track preview and our predictions for round 4 at High Point this weekend. Here's the track map. I'm not 100% sure how accurate these things always are, but if this map is any indicator of what we're going to see this weekend, then there may be a few small tweaks and a section taken out. This section through here looks like it's been just a little bit rerouted and kind of shortened up. And then this section in the back seems to be taken out. It used to go right at the top of this hill and drop down a super steep hill into a Gnarls Barkley off-camber. But it looks like it's gone. It looks like it's a little bit shorter. And I guess we're just going to have to wait and find out this weekend if that map is facts or fake news. And then a weather update for Mount Morris, Pennsylvania. Still a few days away, so kind of hard to tell, but it looks like there could be some rain in the contract. But that's kind of the standard for Pennsylvania in the summer, and if you look at the actual precipitation, it should only be around 1/10 of an inch, so if anything, that's just going to keep the water trucks parked, and the racing should be just as good as ever. And this forecast might even just lend itself to a better racetrack than ever, because of the last few years, we've seen absolute rut cross, slot car cross nationals at High Point. Super gnarly, ruts everywhere, ruts so deep that you can't even consider getting out of them. And with the rain, I don't know that we'll see this because they're not going to want to plow it deep and just let it rain on top of it and get all sloppy. So I think back to the year, I think 2021, there was a threat of rain. They kind of just bladed it and didn't dig it very deep, and the racing was unbelievable. So I'm hoping that's what we see, but I'm not racing, so I don't really care how gnarly it is. Just drop the damn gate. And last, but certainly not least, we will do a very poor quality MX Simulator track preview lap from yours truly, Matty B, on a laptop that barely runs this game. I even had to use the 2023 track because my computer wouldn't even open 2024. But here we go, one virtual lap around High Point. We got the start right in front of all the fans, nice long straightaway into the sweeping left-handed corner. Kind of missed the old High Point start that was a real sweeper, but it is what it is. Everyone's racing the same track under the whole shot banner and into a tight right-hander into turn 2. We've seen some jam ups there and then into this left. This used to be called the Carmichael Double, but I don't think that's very respectful to Carmichael anymore because even I've jumped it. It's not what it used to be. Then we've got these turning doubles and the rollers down the hill, super technical into some bumps and one more speed check roller down the hill into this right-hander. Out of that, small tabletop, and then you got a tight section of switchbacks to the left and the right. And this is the area of the track map that looked a little bit different. So we'll just have to see on press day on Friday if this section is how it is in the game or if it's how it is on the track map. But sweep through here, if you look close enough, Roxon's still kicking his Suzuki from 2023 down into the valley, and then you can do this triple step up over one of the inside humps or go outside, inside outside option, and then you drop down into the biggest jump on the track. Nice big quad in front of the fans. I don't think we'll be seeing anybody do an oppo quite like that. Then another inside outside single option down this hill and straight back up into a very tight 180, super steep up and down, ruts everywhere. Then you got this step up and then a little ski jump in this pro section that only gets ran at the Pro Nationals. Super rough sweeper, ruts, bumps, you name it, it's all back there. Oh, and I forgot to mention, like 99% of the track is off camber, just like it is back here. Drop in and out of that pocket, down this hill, and then you got a little pop step up right into this little right-hander, and then you drop back down. This is the section that I'm not sure is going to be there. If you look at the track map, this section got axed, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see if it's there when I get there, because I will be in attendance, no choice, I can't wait. But this is back where it would tie into, left-handed corner, and then this tabletop. An amateur at the Lorettalands Regional actually jumped down to that second drop-off. Don't think we're going to see that this weekend, but this downhill is super steep, straight down, super rough, and then this off-camber at the bottom is basically like turning down at the bottom of Everest, and then you climb back up, little step up, and then a big triple step up into this final corner before the finish line. Tight left-hander, and then this 10-foot tabletop is the hardest 10-foot jump in all of motocross. Land down the hill, a little right-hander, and then you launch the ski jump next to the mechanics area, inside single, outside around the single, option action across the start, and then back into the classic board turn where you turn off of the boards, loop back into the first corner, and that is a lap around High Point Raceway, one of the coolest tracks on the circuit, tons of elevation, awesome viewing for fans, and I cannot wait to be one of them this weekend. And now finally, we will finish today's video with my predictions for round 4 at High Point this weekend. Starting with the 250 class, I cannot bet against Deegs for the win. I think he's going to be pissed off after getting beat 2 motos in a row by Chance Hyman last weekend, and it's not going to sit well with him, so I don't see him doing anything other than coming out hot and getting a win. Then in second, I think Chance Hyman continues the momentum, challenges Deegs, but I'm just not sure if it's going to be quite enough to fend off a pissed off Danger. And then in third, I'm going Sushi. Sushi's going to roll. Shimoda's been good all year, and I think he lands it on the box. Then for the 450s, I just can't bet against the dude, Jet Lawrence. I think he takes another one. Not sure if it'll be a 1-1, but I've got him for the overall. Then in second, I've got Eli Tomac. I think he puts up a huge fight, and I really hope we see a classic battle, even though it's not that classic because we've hardly ever seen him. But I've got him in the 2 spot, and then I've got AP, the Cowboy, on the final spot on the box for the second week in a row. The dude's got good momentum. He's feeling confident, and I know that's what he runs off of. So I've got AP in third behind the 2 giants of the 450 class. But that's all I got for today. Make sure you guys let me know in the comments what you think about my takes, if you agree, disagree, if I'm cooked, shot out, or anything in between. And like I said, I'll be at High Point this weekend, so I'll do my best to bring you guys some boots on the ground reporting, and I can't wait to be there. But thank you guys again for watching. We're out.